Each second, 28,258 internet users view pornography and spend $3,075. According to conservative estimates, the industry brings in over $97 billion per year, of which the United States is responsible for more than $12 billion. About 13% of all web searches are for erotic content, and 42.7% of all internet users view pornography. 72% of viewers are male and 28% are female. 10% of the population admits to having a pornographic addiction, 28% of which are women. The average age of the first exposure to pornography is 11 years old, and 80% of 15 to 17-year-olds have had multiple hardcore exposures. In the United States, a new pornographic video is created every 39 minutes. 66% of all performers have herpes, and 7% have HIV. Porn obsession is a factor in 56% of all divorces.
So when we see these stats, when we see these numbers around the world, in the United States, some people see it and say, well, great, we're being aware of our sexuality. Others see it and say, maybe there's a little, we need to worry a little bit. Many Muslim countries have banned pornography. Should pornography be illegal? So looking at all these stats, looking at where we are, is that extreme in banning it, or should it even go to the level of, making it illegal?
Yeah, the first knee-jerk reaction that a lot of Americans would have is that what right does anybody have to regulate morality through laws? And here we have to remember that our country already does this. This kind of reaction is a result of an atheistic thinking that has so many contradictions in it, because a person doesn't realize how many spiritual beliefs that they hold while thinking that they're not religious, while thinking that they're skeptical and are only fact-based. So just as a simple example of this, in our society, obviously you get arrested if you leave the house without any clothes on. Obviously a person is going to get arrested if they're having sexual intercourse outside in the open. So if pornography is illegal, then it's only one step away from that. In principle, it's no different from it. So the government already, not through civil law, but through criminal law, regulates morality. And the reason it regulates it is purely for moral reasons. There's no, real, scientific or any kind of reason why it is that a person can't go outside naked or can't be having sex in public. So as far as the Islamic perspective goes, the Holy Quran has clearly taught that public displays of sexuality are to be condemned. They damage the basic morality of society in the same way that we would naturally be appalled if a person was walking around naked in front of children at the mall. There's something of basic common sense that tells us that it's wrong, and we as a society, almost a consensus, agree that that should be illegal. So Islam basically teaches this same principle, but it says that have a little bit more modesty and apply that same principle consistently, and pornography should also be objectionable.
Yeah, as the Rizwan said, that the government is already regulating morality. And I would even go further to argue that according to Islam, part of the job of the government is to a certain extent regulate the moral condition of the people and to put laws and policies in place that can better the morality of the people. Let's look at pornography, and we have to look at the reality of pornography and the reality of the difference between men and women. And there's a reality that men are those who are more visually excited, visually aroused, and visually stimulated by pornography. We saw the stats that the 70% or so of porn users are men. There was another stat I was reading earlier that actually said that the amount of pornography available on the internet, 90% of that pornography is aimed at men. It's engineered and produced for men. Only 10% of it is produced for women. So this tells us there's a huge difference between what men and women find arousing, what men and women find exciting for sexuality. Men want that visual stimulus. Women need something more. And so this is the nature of pornography. And when this is the nature of pornography, that almost all of it is geared towards men. Now let's look at the reality of this. When there are so many men, generations of men who are watching pornography, it's legalized, they're involved in it. When you're watching women for your pleasure repeatedly and endlessly, this is just basic human psychology, that it leads to the objectification of women. Then men growing up looking at this only look at women as sex objects and nothing more. There have been these studies that they've actually shown where they took these group of men who are addicted to pornography. Then they showed them women who are harmed or abused in different situations. And they didn't rate that nearly as disturbing as other people, as other men or even family members being abused, because to them, they were already desensitized to it. There was a study they did on pornographic content, that 9 out of 10 scenes of the best-selling pornographic videos actually contained some kind of abuse or degradation or violence towards women, and the victim actually received it as pleasurable. So this is the nature of pornography. It's leading to a group of men who are desensitized to violence towards women, who objectify women, and they believe in the normalization of degradation of women. There's so many of these studies that show that a lot of these men addicted to pornography, they end up going to prostitutes, just wanting to act out what they see in their porn videos, the degradation of women, all of these things. They've actually shown that 80% of the people who went to prostitutes showed the prostitute a picture of a porn picture or a video saying, "This is what I want to do with you." So when this is the result of the degradation of morality from pornography, then of course we fully support that the government should have some right to regulate that degradation of morality.
But since when, like, if let's talk reality, right? Let's talk about what's happening in our societies. Let's talk about what's affecting the policies that are the decisions that are being made as far as policy is concerned. When we look at a society like America, we can argue all we want, to be honest, right? We saw the stats. More Americans would agree that it's immoral to participate or even watch pornography, right? But is that enough of a reason for it to become illegal? People don't get listened to when it comes to things like this. Alcohol, everybody knows that it has more harm than benefit, but it's still legal. But what Islam does, the approach that Islam takes is that society as in general, for you as an individual, physically, morally, spiritually, anything that's going to bring a negative thing to yourself, Islam pushes that away to the extent of even the food that we eat. So this is a difference of approach. But what society does is, like in America, if something is contributing so much to the economy, we're seeing that the economy is booming because of it, it gets promoted. That's just the reality. So should it be illegal? People are asked. And people agree mostly that this has more harm than it has good. People need to be listened to. But I think that's not what's being done. And this is what makes Islam specifically, we can speak so confidently about, makes it the right way to follow. Like I said, when you make something clear to you between what is right and what is wrong, then you make a decision to follow. And to the extent of if you do something on your own, like two people get into a room and they do something that's wrong, that's between them and God, right? They're committing sin that's between them and God. But when this is exposed, like you mentioned, Murabbi Rizwan, something like pornography, Islam says when 4 people are witnesses to a sexual act, then it becomes punishable. But with pornography, it's being promoted that let the whole world watch and let this contribute so much to our economy. So I think that in itself causes such a problem that it would be difficult for us to stand up and say that it needs to be illegal. Just from the perspective of, yeah, sorry?
Yeah, and one of the points to take into consideration of how nuanced this subject is that why do we consider prostitution to be illegal, but pornography to be legal? This is something that is a subject of legal debate. And the fact is that if somebody is paying a woman to have sex in prostitution, and that's something they can get arrested for, then what is exactly happening in pornography? Those two people are getting paid to have sex. The only difference is that now a camera is involved. This is why some people, they try and make the excuse, like when they get caught with prostitution, to just say that no, it was pornography. You just put a camera in the room and now suddenly it's not prostitution anymore. You're hiring an actress. So what is it that makes prostitution exactly illegal, which is so distinct from pornography in the principle of the action? The real reason why prostitution is illegal, and the reason why this debate keeps coming up, and even in places where it's legalized, the debate arises again, we should make it illegal, is because the institution, the industry, is oppressive towards women. Again and again that happens, and it harms the interests of women. Women are in a vulnerable position and they suffer. So this is the exact same thing that we see happening in the pornography industry, an industry that inherently puts women in a vulnerable position, and then they become deprived in their rights in so many different ways. So we already consider prostitution to be illegal because of the harm that it does to women. And as we're discussing right now, this is not a place where men and women are equal. You have to come to terms with the fact that there is a difference in the way that men look at women, the objectification of women that they experience and how it affects their lives. Not just the actors in those videos, but actually then women in society in general, how it hurts them. Yeah. So, when we go into the subject of legality and illegality, there are so many similar things that are already illegal that it shouldn't be a concept that's foreign to the average American at all.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon.
Love for all, hatred for none.